Hey guys, it's Bromos and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today we will be practicing some stock setups and determining whether they will continue to go up or down. Some of the key features we will be using to determine this are candlestick patterns, chart patterns, RSI, MCAD, resistance and support levels. If you are a new trader and haven't learned these concepts yet, then I highly recommend you to do so because these are the foundations that traders need in order to become successful. I am planning on making some videos on these concepts in the future. If you guys are interested in something like this, feel free to let me know so I can see how many people actually want this and me just not wasting my time. These setups can be applied on any time frame, meaning that you can apply these concepts whether you're a day or a swing trader. In other words, you could do this on the daily chart or the weekly chart or monthly chart, etc., etc. Before we get started, I wanted to point out that I am not using any catalyst in this situation, nor am I outright saying that the stock you're possibly holding or shorting in these examples will go up or down. The purpose of these videos are to train traders to how to identify these setups. Anyways, let's get started. First up is VTVT. We can see it was moving sideways for a bit while riding the 20 and 50 SMA line before moving up and moving back to the 50 SMA line. Based on the graph, what do you guys think is going to happen? You can pause the video and try to make an educated guess on what will happen. Okay, so this is how I would break it down. First, we have a nice support area at these levels. This will be the fourth bounce off this. An important thing to note that the more times an area is hit, the more difficult it's going to be to break that trend. Next, we can see that there's a bull flag pullback to the support area. As you guys may know, I'm a sucker for bull flag pullbacks to an area of support. It's been holding the 50 SMA line nicely. This is an important thing to note because based on previous history, the stock held the 50 SMA line for the most part. You know what they say, history tends to repeat itself. Notice how the overall direction of the 20 SMA line is upwards. The RSI and MCAD are curling nicely here. Now, based off all this, I believe that the stock should continue upwards. Let's see if I'm right. In this scenario, my plan would be to enter as soon as it broke out the bull flag and have my stop loss just a bit below the 50 SMA line, while having my reward area at around the height of the bull flag. Boom! The stock price moves up. It's important to note that it won't always gap up, but it manages to gap up above my reward area. At this point, I would have either sold some here or all and then have my stop loss at around the height of the bull flag. Yes, you are allowed to move your stop loss when the price goes up to a certain point. Some of you might be asking, would you buy now at around these levels in this scenario? The answer is possibly because it has a doji bounce off the 20 SMA line and it's bouncing off a level of support. My stop loss in this case would be below the 20 SMA line, which would be $3. $3 is a psychological number, so it would be hard for it to go below that. If you guys got it right, you should be proud of yourself. And if you didn't, don't worry about it. As long as you understood why this made sense, then you are golden. If it still doesn't make sense, don't worry. It just takes time and practice before you get the hang of it. Next we have CPHI. In this scenario, the stock was moving sideways and then moved up before pulling back. Pause the video and think on whether or not the stock will move upwards or downwards, and then unpause when you are ready to hear the answer. So the first thing that pops to my mind is this area of support. This would be the third bounce off of it. Next, I see a bull flag to support. Wait a minute. Bromos, this awfully looks familiar. Well, my response to that is, I don't know what you're talking about. ... Next, notice how the last candlestick was a doji, which bounced off support. A doji on a downtrend is a sign that the bulls are ready to take control soon. The reason behind this is because a doji represents indecision in the market, and having a doji on a downtrend means that the buyers are finally pushing back up against the bears. We can also see that it's holding the 50 SMA line, and the overall direction of the 200 SMA line is upwards. Okay, Bromos, enough with the mind games. We can see that this is similar to VTVT. Fine, I'll confess that this is a setup similar to VTVT. Then you guys already know that I believe this is going to move upwards. But first, let me list some other key features. We have a rising pennant which shows that the current overall trend is upwards. We also have the RSI and MCAD curling upwards. Just like last time, I would enter at the break of the bull flag and then have my stop loss just a bit below the 50 SMA line while selling some or all at the height of the bull flag. Now let's see what happens. Boom! It moves upward. I think some of you guys are starting to realize that setups like these have a high probability chance of moving upward. Notice how I said a high probability and not 100%. There is a chance that this could have gone down. With that being said, as long as you have a plan for entering a trade, you will be golden. Now let's take a look at another stock. XNET has been moving downward for quite some time before having this huge gap up and then continuing to move downwards. Pause the video and predict on whether the stock will continue to move down here or make a possible reversal. The first thing that I see is this level of resistance. The reason I call this strong is because it's been touched many times and it failed to break above it on its last trading day. Here we have a bull flag that is tangent to the resistance line. A bear flag is like a bull flag but upside down. Remember when I said there was a strong resistance? Well, another reason that it's strong is because the 20 and 50 SMA line lies around there. It failed to even go past those SMA lines. I see the falling pennant, which tells me that the overall trend of this stock is downwards. Based on what I said, I wouldn't play the stock because I think it will continue to move downwards. If someone was going to short, then they could try shorting at the break up below the falling pennant and having their stop loss at the break above of the bear flag. The reward would be around the 200 SMA line. Before we go further, I need to apologize in advance for not drawing out my entry with my risk and reward. I forgot to do that in some of the other stocks in the video. Anyways, with that out of the way, now let's see what happens here. And the stock continues to move downwards. Some of you might be asking, is there ever a point you would ever consider taking an entry here? And the answer is most likely not, because there just aren't enough bullish indicators for me to use at this point in time. However, my recommendation to people is if they want to jump on this, then I would recommend them buying close to the 200 SMA line and having your stop loss at below that. So your risk in that case would be pretty low and your reward could be somewhat decent. Now let's take a look at ADMP. It was moving in a downtrend before moving upwards and gapping down after the rejection at the 200 SMA line. Then it continued to move down before moving up above the 20 and 50 SMA line before moving down again and then moving sideways for a bit before gapping down. Pause the video and predict what do you think is going to happen here before resuming the video. Like I mentioned earlier, it gapped down. This gap down is special because it gapped down from the 50 SMA line and couldn't even close back on it. Next we see a falling wedge. Now a falling wedge is a bullish pattern if we're going by the textbook, but that is only depending on how it's being used. In this case, I want to show that the falling wedge because it's illustrating that the stock trend is downwards. This can change, of course, if the stock breaks above its resistance. We also have a descending triangle which further illustrates that the stock overall trend is downwards. The overall direction of the 200 SMA line is downwards. In my opinion, this stock is bearish and this is not a setup I would take. Shorts would need to be careful if the stock breaks above the resistance. If it breaks below support, then shorts, in my opinion, will have a field day. The stock moves downward and the shorts start to party. It's important to note here that it made a triple bottom and that it's possible at these levels it could reverse. However, note that there is also a major resistance. If it breaks below 0.50, then I would recommend anyone who's bullish on this stock to exit because there is no telling how much lower this stock could go. Now let's move on to the last stock. In this example, it was moving sideways before moving up very nicely before pulling back and then moving upwards a bit before moving down a bit. Pause the video and predict the outcome of this stock. The first thing I see is a bull flag pullback off an area of support. That area of support also consists of the 20 and 50 SMA line. It manages to bounce off the 50 SMA line and close on the 20 SMA line. The RSI is curling upwards while the MCAD is curling downwards. So far, I see more bullish indicators than bearish. Is there anything else that we could add here? Why, yes, Bromos, there is. We also have an upward trend line. Based off this, I think that the stock will continue to move upwards. My entry would be when it broke above the bull flag and having my stop loss at below the blue trend line. Now let's see what happens. It makes a nice move upwards, but then starts to crash down. Wait, Bromos, what is going on here? I thought you said that the stock would continue to move upwards and never go back down. Why did he lie to us? Hold up. I've never said I was always right, because if I were always right, I would be filthy rich right now. Despite that, there was still money to be made here. Let's go over how you could have made money before the drop. If you bought it at the breakout, then you could have rode up before selling some or all at around the height of the bull flag. If you decide to sell some there, then you would move your stop loss up to that resistance line and continue the ride up. In this case, it would pull back to that level of previous resistance, which is now support, and where the 20 SMA line lies. I would be tempted to add more here because in my opinion, this is a strong area of support since it's been touched many times. Unfortunately, if I did that, then I would lose some money because the stock moves below it and continues to go lower. This is a very good example of showing that sometimes we not predict correctly even if we use technical analysis. This example is a bit nicer because it did move up quite a bit before moving down, but there was also the possibility of it just going lower. That is why I cannot stress this enough that people need to have a plan when trading. Emotion trading does not count as a good plan. With that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed my video. If you guys have any questions or comments, feel free to let me know in the comment section below. If you guys enjoy my content and would like to support me, then all I ask is to subscribe to my channel and hit that bell notification button to know instantly when my next video comes out. Have a great day.